So in this training, we're going to go through how to dominate a single target market. What's the problem, Alfred?
Problem is too much clutter. So many messages in different directions, no relevance to you or me, generic messages, and the bigger problem is too much choice.
Yeah.
You know, what are we going to eat tonight? You know, what are we going to watch on TV? What are we going to, you know, where are we going to buy our clothes?
And all the businesses that sell each of those individual items, they're competing on multiple fronts because there's so many other competitors. For every one clothes shop, there's 10 clothes shop. For every one food takeaway place, there's 10 food takeaway places. So the question is, how can you fight through that? How can you survive? Because otherwise the problem is, with no relevance, too much choice, not enough trust, you're going to be having big problems in your business.
Trust, well, yeah, that's it. And who do you trust?
Absolutely. People want to know who to trust. Where do I go?
How do you filter out good messages from bad messages, good service providers?
Yeah, at the moment, you don't trust anybody. Like, the way we look at advertising and sales is like, they're trying to sell me something and tell me something which I don't necessarily believe. And I'll find out whether or not I believe that through independent other sources. I'll read articles, I'll talk to friends, I'll look at different things. So as a business, how do you can't just send more of the same stuff. You've got to take a different approach.
Yes, or you've got to bang a lot louder. And that's what the big companies do. They have the funds to spend multiple millions. Whether the message is right or wrong, the message is louder because they have more money to put the same message out there.
True, but their return on investment's going down, and everyone comes down to the same things. If you don't have strong positioning, which is what we're going to be talking about, strong positioning, you're going to be constantly chasing customers, constantly searching for new gimmicks, you're going to be constantly challenged on price. People are going to be like, well, why, there's a place down the road that's cheaper, what's the difference with you? Why should I see you?
Right, so that's why you know, starting with the larger companies, they actually have the financing to put out their messages. But for the small business owner, for the person, you know, out there that is literally hustling on the high street, they have to think a lot more carefully about taking a position. And when we say taking a position in the client, customer's mind.
Yeah, they've got to have there has to be a reason why they come and see you. If you're one of 6 shops offering exactly the same service on the street, how do they choose? They choose on price.
Right. That's the only option that they have.
Because you've given them no other option to choose you on.
Okay.
And that's the whole thing. Because if you're having to constantly discount to compete, and you're only able to compete on price reactively, not through your choice, like Wal-Mart, it's an intentional operational strategy to remove all cost from their supply chain and go aggressively to capture bigger wallet share. But other companies, like for example, a local hair and beauty place or a local dental practice, they may have no other choice but then say, oh well, I'm gonna have to discount my price of my service because otherwise how can I attract people?
Okay, and interesting that you mentioned Walmart, because most people actually over here in the UK they know it's Asda,
Yeah.
so it's essentially the same company. But most people assume that Walmart are in the business of lower pricing, but there's actually what we call the business behind the business. They're actually so good at protecting their margins and creating all sorts of loss leaders that their business is actually managing their margins instead of buying low and selling high.
Absolutely. As a small business,
we don't have that micro-managerial support. We don't have the big buying power.
No.
So when you look at the business person on the high street, they're suffering from certain symptoms. Their head is low, their shoulders are slumped because they're constantly chasing customers. They're constantly searching for new gimmicks.
every year there's a new competitor.
Constantly challenged on price. They're providing a good value service, but their customers are saying, oh, can you offer me a better deal? They're constantly attracting difficult and fussy customers. You don't know who's coming through the door.
No, and people can fly abroad for different services. They're no longer the loyalty is gone.
Right.
What's in it for me? All this stuff. So what's the solution?
Solution position. Solution is taking. It's almost like not being greedy, but taking a position in your customer's mind. So it's almost like we start with a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So in your mind, right, when you think of cars and safety, a lot of people would say Volvo.
Yeah.
Volvo. There are a lot of brands of other cars out there, but somehow they've managed to.
Well, they're the market leader.
They're the market leader for safety.
For safety with
the car
cars.
market.
Yeah.
Right? And then an example would be, okay, if I said to you,
So
if I said to you a toy with your meal, what's the first thing that comes into
McDonald's.
your mind? McDonald's, right? The Happy Meal.
Yeah.
Right? If I said to you,
So like for the car with safety, they can do more innovations around safety and protecting, and you're appealing to the psychology of the person that wants that.
Right.
Do you want toy with a meal? You're talking about a harassed parent who wants to basically have a little bit of respite, and so then they can actually find somewhere that's child friendly
Right.
to take their child. Basically.
And if you're doing more things with that position, so
Yeah.
cinema and tie-ins, it kind of protects that position.
Absolutely, and then that's what you talked about with your front end, your back end model, because you attract people with the initial sale of what you want to go with, and then you offer additional services or items that fit the model and the buyer profile of who you've attracted.
Right. Another word association. If we said books online, what comes to your mind?
Amazon.
Okay. So you really have to choose. It
And
sounds,
there's only space for one.
right. It sounds like you're limiting yourself, but the customer, because of this so much choice, you have to find a small pocket and guard it with your lives.
See, it's not even small, it's focused. Because these days, with more communications technology, people will find you out. And the whole point is, if you establish a very strong, firm brand position, and then you can then pull people from a large geographic area, and therefore you can dominate. So the whole thing we're going to be talking about is positioning, how to be the market leader, and to begin with, you've got to think about what is the problem you want to solve.
What is the problem?
So what is the thing that you are providing for your customer to improve and transform their life? What is the high value service? What's the market you want? What's the service you want to dominate? Procter & Gamble have so many billion-dollar brands where they focus on a specific target market, like this is the product for colored, this is the product for whites, or whatever like that. So in the same way, where's the place for hair treatment? Where's the place for laser eye? Where's the place for implants? And we're talking about within geographic pockets.
Right. So whittling it down to the problem that you want to solve, a lot of the clues are who's coming through your door. Who comes through your door during business hours?
Who buys that already?
Right, who already buys your services, buys your products, and this will give you an idea of your general market. We're not talking about the people on the high street. Anyone who comes through your door and makes a transaction, they are your general market. What is it that they think? How do you differentiate yourself within that general market that comes within your door? And there's a bit of a toss up here, because some of them would purchase things that with a high margin, and some of them would come in, they'd pick up something and they'd leave that has a low margin. So you have to kind of balance it out.
Because they may not realize you offer additional specialty procedures or services. They may just think you only offer general things. So in their head, they think that you're not qualified or capable or leader in that higher value service.
Right.
So the key thing is making sure you intentionally place the message consistently and broadly and repeatedly.
I'm going to give you a problem here.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a problem. The problem is why you don't want to be the best restaurant in town.
Why?
Well, go back to positioning and market focus. For example, if I said to you, okay, we're going to open a restaurant and we want to be the best restaurant in town, that's the worst possible.
Yeah, because what does best mean?
Yeah, what does best mean, right? There's a McDonald's down the road. They're the biggest and baddest.
So they're the best for fast and convenient.
You've got it. So we can be the best Italian restaurant. We can be the best Lebanese restaurant. It's about choosing. You've got to keep whittling.
And even then, you could go the best Lebanese fast food or the best Lebanese sit down.
Right, there you go. So you've taken a position when your customers start speaking those terms, like oh, let's get. Oh, we haven't got long. Let's get a pizza. Oh, these guys are the fastest. So it's about choosing, whittling down, choosing that position.
Generic never wins, so you have to focus on one thing at a time. And the thing is, you can actually have several different focuses, but you have to have each one talking to a specific market to begin with. So you got to choose a niche, and you got to think like, who's going to be my target customer? What's the problem I'm going to solve? And it's always good to focus on transformative problems that really are problems, genuine problems to your customer.
Transformative, you mean that they transform the experience? Means that the client is transformed.
Yeah, their life is significantly better as a result of purchasing your item.
Okay.
So that means that they're going to feel their health is going to be massively improved, their finances is going to be improved. It's something which transforms and improves the quality of their life. Now, generally, those sorts of products and services are quite expensive. There's also generally some perceived risk in taking them. So then people are thinking, I'd like to improve my life, but I don't know who to trust.
Risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the question then is like, who do I trust? Because I'm not going to buy the heart surgery on price.
Right. If the other way around is if a general doctor approached you and said, oh, you've got heart problems and we're about to operate, you'd say, wait a minute, are you qualified?
Yeah.
Even though they've been through medical school.
They're qualified in one thing,
right?
But are they expert in another thing?
They're a general practitioner. But if they came to you and said, with the costume and everything, and they said,
or you read their book,
right, and they're a heart surgeon, esteemed heart surgeon, you'd say, here's my checkbook.
Yeah. So the key thing is choosing your niche. So for example, you want to make sure that customer ideally has a high 30-day customer value. What does this mean? We're talking about acquiring customers. Customers don't come by accident. You have to do some sort of marketing activity. We'll go through that in future trainings to get your message out there. That carries a cost. It may be a cost you can leverage, but it's a cost. So what you need to make sure is how much you spend on the customer is a lot less than they spend with you. Therefore, this is scalable.
Is it scalable?
Yeah, it is, because if for example it costs you £150 to get that customer, they spend 1,500 with you in the first 30 days, you've then got 1,350 where you can put your 150 back straight into getting another customer.
Well, another way of saying it is, would you, if you knew that a certain segment of your clients are going to give you £1,000 over the course of 6 months, would you invest in 150 to acquire that customer?
Yes. So that in that situation, you've got to have cash flow which would manage that period. But I'm talking about like for small businesses, if you focus on a service which means that in the first 30 days with you, they will spend a multiple of what it costs you to acquire them, it's very scalable because you don't need to rely on banks to fund your overdrafts and everything like that.
Finance your own growth.
It's self-finance growth.
Right.
Self-finance growth. So what you want to be looking at is thinking about, okay, what's the problem? What are people searching for? What are people frustrated by? Where are they looking? And then you also want to think about, okay, so how am I going to get these customers? Where am I going to kind of attract them from? I'm going to use like word of mouth. I'm going to try and have something where when people use it, they talk about something. I'm going to use adverts. All of these things are places through which you can place your market leadership positioning in.
And protect your market leadership.
Yes, because nature doesn't like a vacuum. And if there's a gap, if there's a space, somebody will take that space. So you've got to then consistently do it. Why does Coke spend so much money on advertising? Or why does McDonald's spend so much money on advertising? Because they've got to reassert and maintain where they are. And so that's the formula for market leadership. Content times consistency. The market leader in any market, they're a thought leader. They're the ones putting the ideas out. So therefore, in order to put ideas out, you have to communicate across different media. You've got to have different written articles, you've got to have different audio articles, you've got to have different videos, you've got to have different explanation tools.
Well, let me say something a little bit about consistency, because you can have the right message, the right content that's going out to the public, but a lot of people sometimes they get bored with their message and they start switching their focus.
But that's the business owner. The customer's never bored. They don't even know you exist.
Right. So that's why consistency is important, because I could tell you something and then you put it on a piece of paper, but if I keep telling you it, you won't have to write it down.
And trust is when you know what that person will do for you. You don't want to keep hearing about McDonald's offering you Happy Meals and burgers, and then suddenly they say, no, actually now we're a high value restaurant. Then next week, no, actually now we're this, now we're that. You're thinking, well, what do you really do? Because people will go through their lives, and every few months they may have the problem that your business can solve. But if you've been flip-flapping and changing your marketing, they'll be like, hang on, I don't think these people are really serious about what they're doing. They claim they do laser hair removal, and they claim that they do all these things, but now they're talking about doing other treatments and things like this. And so I'd rather go to the place that just does that,
Right.
and they know their stuff, and they seem more consistent.
Right. And interestingly, the people that we trust in our general lives, our friends,
And they have consistent behavior.
are the ones that have a consistently positive influence and behavior in our life.
Yeah, you know what they will do.
That's why you trust them.
Exactly, because and that's your business has to project a presence, and it's not what you spin it to be. It has to be what it has to be.
Okay.
But you have to make it like a stick of rock.
Right.
The message has to go right through it.
Right. So Aalok, what is positioning?
Positioning is owning that thought, that association in your customer's mind. So when they think of the problem, they think of your brand name or your offering.
So what or who occurs in your customer's mind when they have a problem?
Exactly. And so that's your opportunity is to own that space, that mental space in their head in your local area.
So let me just touch on a problem that most business owners will have, is that when I ask one of my clients, I say, so what is it you do? They go, oh, we do everything.
Yeah, that's
Right.
terrible.
Right? I mean, that's the mistake. Is you've actually got to, first of all, think about your general market, people that walk through your door. Who am I going to segment out of that general market? And what is the problem I'm solving for them?
I mean, who do you want referrals for? Like, if you offer 10 services, so let's just say, for example, you offer simple teeth cleaning hygiene services, but then you also offer full mouth implants, right? You're not gonna, the person.
As a dentist.
Yeah, just as a dentist, basically. So you want referrals, ideally, for the larger cases. So therefore, you need to consistently communicate that you do that in a better way. So until you're putting a consistent message out there, if every day you're saying, I do this, I do that, I do that, every day to 10 people, they're all confused and they basically say, well, I don't really know, he does a few things. That's not going to be a strong sell when they're talking to their friend.
Right.
Versus if they said, look, here's his book, or here's this guide,
Right.
or something like this, or this is the person you need to go to for.
Or a person has a nagging, or your friend has a nagging problem, and all of a sudden
You recognize that they solved that problem.
Right.
Exactly. So what you want to do is position yourself and your business so that you can own a space. Then you won't be constantly chasing customers, they'll be attracted to you. You're in constant search for new people and new gimmicks because you've got your proven message, which you just repeat over time. You won't be constantly challenged on price because the people will understand that you're better because you're offering a more trusted, valuable service.
You don't argue with a heart surgeon when they tell you the price.
No, it's about, it depends on like whether it's how things are like the best one really. So there's different elements you can do within positioning, and we've got like we've got to look at what occurs in the customer's mind when they're choosing to solve a problem. And if we're looking at the different elements of positioning, we've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just 9 to begin with, for example. At least. But then it just gives you an idea. So if we talk about positioning, you can have premium options, premium positioning. So for example, you will have different levels. So Virgin upper class, they premium position. It's like
some people actually claim that position to start with, like Bose. The sound system.
Absolutely.
Bose, right? So I mean, how much is a speaker? You can go to the pound shop and get one for £1. But Bose will say, excuse me, minimum £600.
I saw on the tube yesterday, like Beats by Dr. Dre audio headphones. It was on the Waterloo City line, so targeting business commuters, and it had a picture of the executives as executive headphones, and it said the sound of first class.
Oh, that is a position.
So, but then my question is that congruent with Dr. Dre? But then that's a different story.
Yeah, that's a different story.
But the intentional crafting was there.
Right.
So another thing would be solution scripting. Okay, you want to use unique, transformative, non-searchable language. What does this mean? In the age of Google, you tell somebody a brand name or a generic thing, they will then price shop you and check you.
Right.
So you want to have your own solution. You cannot get this anywhere else.
Right. And it kind of touches on branding your own problem solving.
Yeah, experience design.
Right. So if give me a problem that you solve.
So, for example, with one treatment that we do, for example, as a dental practice, we would do helping people rebuild chipped teeth edges, okay? So you could say you can do a white filling on the front edge of the tooth, but I mean a white filling on the front edge of the tooth, then you get open to, well, how much do you charge for your white filling versus somebody else charge for white filling? You've got no value built into that phrase, versus if you said...
But if we give it a label...
Yeah, artificial enamel. So we do like AER, artificial enamel replacement, so we're replacing that okay, now you're offering that it looks like you're replacing the tissue that was lost from me, and it sounds like a more precise treatment.
But it also makes it more tangible. It gives a kind of nebulous concept. It gives it form.
Yes. Plus, at the same time, if nobody else is using that terminology,
Your position.
absolutely. So you want to script and make people ask for your solutions with their language. You want to train them to say, I have this problem, therefore I need your solution. So that's all part of education. Other things are visual positioning. Would you pay more for a Coke in a boutique hotel, or would you expect to pay more like on a stall just in the middle of the street? You know, it's the same product but different margins. So sometimes the prestige factor of where you're located, or the convenience factor, that can play like a role in it.
It's a bit like duty free as well.
Yes.
People actually spend more in the duty free. It's not so much how the people say, oh, well, the argument is cheaper, but they actually spend more because of the.
It's where you are, and it's in using the visuals. As I say, if you have different services, if you can use association, visual association is so powerful. Like if you can have a service and you say that the diamond, and you actually have a picture of a diamond, yeah, all these sorts of things that people straight away, they may not know your service, but they know what a diamond is.
Yeah. So packaging. I mean, a lot of it is
it's part of the packaging, and it's part of the visual positioning.
Right.
And the other things are like in terms of like your positioning, like in terms of complex problems. You want to solve bigger, more profitable problems. You want to look at like the biggest things that you can do. So you position in a simple way that you can do those things.
Right.
You also want to position as like a trusted expert. So how do trusted experts do things? Like look at chefs on TV. They teach you. They sell you recipes, they show you how to do it, they show you everything. You know, the best leaders and chefs, they don't say, oh, I'm not going to tell you all my secret recipe. They're open with their recipe, but it's the way they do it, and they know that they can do that. So you think, okay, I've got the same recipe you've got, but I know that it will be better at your restaurant, so I'm going to come and eat at your restaurant. So the true leaders are able to show exactly and completely transparently how they do it, and then people then therefore believe, because they're teaching people how to do it. Therefore, they must be the expert, so therefore I'm going to seek you out. And, you know, it's the market leadership thing that we talked about, being a category authority, publishing regularly, establishing yourself as the preeminent expert, and constantly looking to improve the information that's out there. And then you want to look at like what's the narrowest and most profitable market you can target, like to being a category of one, being incomparable, being the leading coach or leading expert for autism amongst 7 to 9 year olds, or whatever it is you want to do.
Right.
You just look at like what's the category of one. So therefore,
and that's the challenge. That's the initial challenge, is choosing one thing, because you know we all like to say that we have many skills, but you've heard that phrase, master of none, right?
Yeah, but you start with one. So you make it real. You know, make it up, make it real, make it recur.
Okay.
Dan Sullivan. So you make it up. What do you want to do? Make it real, make it happen, make it recur, make it happen without you. Then do the next.
And if it keeps recurring, then it's real.
Absolutely. And so then you can set up one target market, then another target market.
Right.
It's a model.
Right.
So you just go down that way. And you also want to look at where's the starving crowd. So you want people that desperately want to solve the problem that you have, that you're able to solve.
Is it actually a problem that needs
Yeah,
to be
is it a
solved?
real problem?
Right.
Because there's lots of people that make things up that they think it's a problem, but it's not actually a problem.
Right.
And the problem is dictated by the person that's coming about it. So that's where you've got to understand your customer. And that started with the point that you made, who is coming through your door.
Right.
Because it all starts and ends with the customer.
And if they're actually paying, then it means they are paying to solve an existing problem.
Absolutely. And then that can be scaled up.
Exactly. So are you going to take the clients that have the problems with the highest margin, or the clients that have the lowest margin but more frequency? It depends on your business model. You have to take a position.
Yeah, you can set up the donut shop. You can set up the donut shop as the best place, or you can set up the diamond shop.
Right.
And they'll both work in different ways. It all depends on what you want. Yeah. I think that's enough for positioning.